All right. There we go. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live video today. I'm very delighted to have a special and beautiful guest, Miss Patty, Professor Patty, if you would like to be called that. And Patty and I connected a few years ago, I believe, and through the Dr. Morse network. So Patty is also a regenerative detoxification specialist, and I'm going to let Patty share a little bit about how she came into this world and her personal story and her personal experience with this. But on the topic here today, and why I'm really excited to have this conversation with Patty in this group, some of you are familiar with Dr. Morris and what I've been sharing and teaching in this on this platform here in this space. But I know also many of you that have joined the group just recently are completely brand new to this world of regenerative detoxification, regenerative purification, the way I like to refer to it, cellular regeneration. So it's all very brand new, and how to go about it in a proper way, the truth about your health, and the fact that you actually can and are meant to be your own best healer, your own best doctor, and so how to go about it. So for those of you that are quite brand new to this world, it will be a very interesting discussion for you and to hear Patty as well, because Patty comes from more of a medical background. She teaches in just a regular, you can say, university, an A&P professor. So she has a lot of knowledge when it comes to the body, the way it operates, anatomy, physiology, and then bringing her expertise from that background with her expertise of regenerative detoxification and everything that she has learned through Dr. Morse, through his teachings, and through her personal experience, which is, of course, the most significant, I would say, and the most important thing. So we'll have a discussion here about these topics and what true healing is all about and what true health and natural health is all about. And then we'll leave some room for questions whenever the time for that. And know that this video is recorded. It will be also available for the replay in the group, and it will also be posted on YouTube at some point to share this message loud and wide. So without further ado, thank you so much, Patty, for being here. And I would love for you now to share about your experience and your introduction to the world of regenerative detoxification.
Yes, thank you so much for asking me to join you in your group today. I came into the field of health from an allopathic kind of traditional medical background. I went to a regular medical school, and while I was in medical school, I had some pretty profound experiences that really kind of shook me to the core and helped me to realize that I was on the wrong path. I always looked up to the doctors in the white coat, and I thought they're the ones that know how to heal. They are the ones with the knowledge. And while I was in medical school and, starting to, after you do kind of the first couple of years of just the book work, then you start working with patients, I came to realize that doctors really don't know how to heal anything. They know how to suppress symptoms. They know how to actually agitate and enervate the body, but there's no true healing taking place in this practice. And there were a couple of other things that happened to me while I was in medical school, some things directly to me, to my family members, and it was all at the cost of medicine and what they put forth as health. So without getting into the details of saying any words that could be not congruent with the powers that should not be, I'll just leave it at that. But I decided my third year of medical school that I needed to find a better way. And I first found a medical doctor by the name of Joel Furman. he was somebody that practiced natural hygiene, which Dr. Morse is in alignment with natural hygiene. Natural hygiene is just a system of healing where you're using the laws of nature to help bring forth health. So it's not only proper diet, but also proper sleep, sun exposure. We need all of the elements. We need to be able to have healthy relationships. So, that's where he was coming from. But he went to medical school and he became a medical doctor. And he was someone who wasn't really big on the pharmaceuticals. He actually, when I met him, was using water fasting to help people heal. And he was up in New Jersey at the time, and he had a water fasting clinic. And as a medical student, I reached out to him and I said, I would love to come and work with you, do an internship with you, and learn about what you're doing to help people heal. And I was a novice when it came to water fasting. I didn't know what I was getting into. I read one of his books. I thought it was kind of fascinating. And I was like many people at the time. I'm like, doing nothing but water, how can this heal anybody? They're going to starve to death. But I started to, because I was eager to find the truth, what heals people, I wanted to find out. And I was kind of amazed when I got there, talking to some of the patients he was working with. There was one man in particular. He was denied his 4th cardiac bypass surgery. His insurance companies just would not pay for it. They're like, okay, you've had too many heart attacks. We give you the surgery and then you have another heart attack. So we're not paying for anymore. So he was at a loss. He didn't know what to do. He found Dr. Furman. By the time I had gotten up there, he was on I think over 40 days of only water, and his coronary arteries were healing. His body all by itself, by removing everything other than water, knew exactly what to do to remove that blockage in the blood vessel that was causing him so much chest pain. And so that was one of my first experiences with seeing the power of nature and how the body innately knows how to heal. And I met other people up there, and I was so inspired actually with the patients that I was working with. I just asked Dr. Furman, I'm like, would you mind if I tried this water fasting? And he's like, oh, you're a young medical student. I'm sure you'll be fine. And I did 26 days of nothing but water. And I felt amazing. And I didn't think I could do it. But, seeing people do it, I, had the confidence to move forward. And so I had that experience. And after I left that, in my mind, I thought, this is what I need to do. I don't want to do the chemical medicine. I don't want to do the cut out and remove parts medicine. I want to work with nature. And but at that time, there were no licensed naturopathic medical schools. So I just kind of left medicine altogether. I used the knowledge I had amassed through, going to medical school. I actually went back to grad school and got a graduate degree in biochemistry, and I started teaching. But while I was teaching, I was still kind of investigating natural hygiene, because while I was up doing the internship with Dr. Furman, he had tons of books on natural hygiene, and, Herbert Shelton and T.C. Fry. These are some of the pioneers in that system. And I really kind of dived in head first and learned as much as I could. But I also, had to be in the real world, and I had to earn an income. So I started teaching at a college. And while I was doing that, I came across Dr. Robert Morse, and I reached out to him because I found what he was doing to help people heal to be quite fascinating. Using the herbs, which in natural hygiene, they're not really into the herbs as much, but, herbs are plants, and, plants are something we eat as nourishment. So I remember I made an appointment with Dr. Morris, and we ended up just talking about, anatomy and physiology. And it was like we were long lost friends. It was just, I felt like he was a kindred spirit, and it was a great conversation. And after that conversation and learning about herbology, I decided to become a naturopath. And then I decided to go down to Florida and work with him eventually. So that's kind of how I became a regenerative detoxification specialist, in addition to becoming a naturopath at the same time. And I learned a lot directly from him. Working down with him at his clinic, I was able to ask him lots of questions, like, what do I do in this case with this client that's struggling with this issue? And because he has so many years of experience, it was just an invaluable educational experience to work directly with him. I didn't stay in Florida, unfortunately. I did come back to the Midwest to be close to my family, and that's where I am right now. My parents are here, but I still work with clients one-on-one. I'm trying to build a business on the side of teaching, because I'm still teaching as a college professor. But my passion is helping people find the truth of how the body heals, and just how simple it is, and how thorough and deep this healing is. And it's more than just physical healing. It's emotional, it's spiritual healing as well. So it's a very big, system of love that people are getting into when they approach this type of path. And it's a calling. I think it's not for the faint of heart. It's for somebody that really wants to do the deep work. So that's my background.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Patty. I love hearing the story over and over again. And I have a few questions about that. First, I'm really curious, how did you even come across Dr. Morris? What was the catalyst for that? And also, were you having any health issues?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there was a little bit of a time period after I left medical school and working with Dr. Furman before I found Dr. Morris. It wasn't like one to the other. So I kind of went back into, after leaving medical school, I did a few things, maybe a little rebellious to many people, but I ended up, before finishing my graduate degree and teaching, I joined a band. I was, into music. So I was always passionate about, creating music and doing all of that. And I probably got into, some unhealthy habits just because I was in my 20s and kind of rebellious. And it wasn't until my late 20s that I actually started teaching as a college professor. So I had maybe a good 5 or 6 years where I was just doing what I wanted to do. I had always been a very serious student. And, my parents were not happy with the fact that I left medical school and joined a band. That was like their worst nightmare. But I think in living kind of that rebellious lifestyle and, doing things like, maybe every now and then drinking alcoholic beverages and drinking coffee. When I went into teaching, I think I had some issues, some physical issues. And it wasn't anything too serious, but I knew that, that time I had spent with Dr. Furman and I did 26 days of water fasting, I knew how amazing I felt. And I always had that remembrance of how powerful that healing was. And so when I went back to teach, and I was teaching about the human body, because my main focus is anatomy and physiology, even though my graduate degree is in biochemistry and I did a lot of studying of immunology as well. What I primarily teach at the school is anatomy and physiology, and just learning about the body and teaching it, 2 semesters, 3 semesters every year, repeating the same thing over and over again. You begin to have a very foundational connection with how the human body works and wanting to support it. And that's when I kind of came back to my roots of natural hygiene. And I wasn't feeling the greatest. I think I had gained a little bit of weight. I was feeling kind of tired from, the late nights of trying to put my classes together and teaching. It was kind of all stressful as a new college professor. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go back and do this natural hygiene thing and go back to raw foods and eat that for a while. And that was around the same time Facebook started becoming a popular thing. And I found people kind of in this natural hygiene world that were doing fruit-based diets. And that's where I found Dr. Morris. Somebody posted a video of his and I thought, who is this guy? And he's got a pretty interesting message, and finding him, it just kind of brought on a new level of healing with nature. Like I said, I didn't know a lot about herbs before Dr. Morris. And he really was more so aligned with the fruit. Whereas Dr. Furman was more of just water fasting and raw foods, Dr. Morse was really sharing his knowledge about just how healing the fruits are and how they are man's perfect food.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, I haven't heard that part yet of the story. And Patty, after you found Dr. Morse, did you switch to all fruit? Did you have a time in your life where an extended time that you were consuming only fruits, or let's say majority fruits?
I did. I think right actually before I found Dr. Morris, and maybe it was kind of during this experiment I was doing, but I did a 6-month fruit fast, if you will, or I don't want to call it a fruit fast, but I did 6 months on fruit, primarily fruits and greens.
And you didn't die.
I didn't die. No, I felt amazing. Actually, I remember when I did this, I was doing it without the herbs. Like I said, this was before I found Dr. Morris. And I don't know if you're familiar with people like Freely the Banana Girl
Oh
and
yeah,
Dairy
yeah.
Rider. So they were kind of big back in that time period where I started to get into those foods. And I was inspired to do nothing but fruit for an extended period of time. And I just remember the first 3 months of that, I felt absolutely amazing. There was some detoxification, though, that I experienced. And this is where I wish I would have had the herbs to support my channels of elimination. Now that I know this, I know how important it is to support the kidneys, to support the bowels, to support, the skin. Because if any of those organs are weak and you're trying to go on a really healthy diet, especially if you've not been living the greatest lifestyle coming into this, you're going to have some problems with elimination, and that's going to cause a lot of what they call healing crises. And I had those. I had some that were intense, and that's, I think, made me feel called even more so to reach out to Dr. Morris, because he was talking about herbs and he was talking about these things that you can do while you're eating a really healthy diet of how I was eating, of the fruits. And then when I started to bring the herbs on board, I started to feel even better. But yeah, just the fruit by themselves, that was amazing. I had this pure energy that was running through me that I had not felt since I was, much younger. And it was just, I had to start exercising to express the newfound prana that was going through my system that needed to come out, because it was all kind of tied up in my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally resonate with that. And it's interesting. And I have a similar experience like you when I started, because I've always been a fruit lover my entire life. And when I started discovering it, for me, it was the 80-10-10 diet. And we're probably
Mm-hmm.
around the same time, because I remember Durian Ryder on YouTube and the Freely Girl and all of that. And to me, it was the greatest news of my life. I can eat all the fruits that I want. Hooray. Like, thank you for giving me the permission to actually do what I've always known to be the truth. But just like you, I didn't know anything about the world of detoxification. Shortly after, I did find Dr. Morse, but I didn't really follow his teachings. I was just eating fruits and being happy. And I don't even remember, because it was a long time ago. I don't even remember if I had healing crises. I'm sure I had certain things that I just didn't know, and I just kept living my life, basically. So it's interesting, though, how, and maybe we'll get to it later, how some people, like you said, like my experience too, you go on the fruits, after 3 months, you feel like a superhuman, and sometimes even less than 3 months. And for some people, they just feel horrible. So that's when we get into the individual cases in which, yes, across the board, fruit is the food for humans if we actually choose to consume solid food. And then within the black and white, there are the gray areas, because some people might be in such a backed up situation, like you said, the elimination channels, that a more gentle approach needs to be utilized.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
and I have another question for you, Patty. When you said about the energy that you were feeling, did you, just coming from a more intellectual background, did you try to analyze it from an anatomy perspective? Were you like getting into your head about it and actually finding the reasons why you are feeling so amazing consuming only fruits?
Um, I think I understood it from the perspective that I was lightening the load of my body. So, by the time I did all of the fruit, I had, like I said, when I was working with Dr. Joel Fuhrman, I was reading a lot of books on natural hygiene. And I remember in these books, Herbert Shelton, T.C. Fry, some of the other pioneers of natural hygiene, they talked about, this being man's perfect diet. And it was more just raw foods because you're getting the fruit in its natural state. It comes with all of the vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and enzymes needed to break it down most easily in our body. And even after I learned that from natural hygiene practitioners, in my later studies, I come to find that, well, a lot of these vitamins and minerals we need as cofactors in the production of energy. And if you're eating sugar isolated, like, sugar from candy or soda, without those phytonutrients and cofactors, you're just causing havoc in your body and you're gunking yourself up. So you need to have the whole fruit, the importance of the whole plant and every part of it being so important for us. I just kind of, I guess, to answer your question, I realized when that's all I was taking in, and I wasn't taking in anything else that was enervating or congestive, it gave my body the perfect fuel. So it made sense to me. Like if you put in your car the exact optimal food that your car needs, it's going to run perfectly. So maybe I was a little bit materialistic, mechanistic in that thinking, but it just made sense to me. And I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to be on man's perfect fuel. And it was amazing. I mean, there are times I need to get back there, because sometimes we get into the day to day and we don't give ourselves those adequate breaks. But it's a remarkable experience.
Mm-hmm. And how would you, for people that are listening and perhaps are looking for more intellectual understanding of how come we receive such superior energy from fruits. So how would you explain that in terms of energy, really? And we know it's beyond just the physical. So that's one of the things I appreciate about you also, is bringing both the physical and the non-physical into the
Mhm.
equation to break it down for people, that because we've, as you know, right, in this world, we've been conditioned so heavily, oh, there's too much sugar in fruit, or people see fruit as a snack or dessert, um, not like actual food. So how do you explain it to people?
Well, I mean, fruit is a food. It comes packaged with everything it needs. I mean, the tree or the bush or whatever the plant was that produced the fruit, it has a root system. It's drawing up water from the earth, naturally distilling this water, structuring this water. So the water you're getting from fruit is probably the most beautiful water there is. I mean, everybody wants to know, what's the best water? Should I buy a distiller? Should I do reverse osmosis? You should eat fruit. That's going to give you the best water. And it's going to be energized, and it's going to, once it is absorbed into your blood vessels, it's going to flow most easily. So that's one of the main amazing properties of fruit, is that it's got that structured water in it. But then dissolved in that water, you've got vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, amino acids, fatty acids, maybe not as much fat as like a nut or a seed, but fatty acids nonetheless. And then the simple sugars, the fructose, the glucose, or even the sucrose, depending on the type of fruit you're eating. So it comes with everything. And where people think you're getting too much sugar from fruit is, I think from this idea that sugar is bad. And yeah, isolated sugar is bad. When you take the sugar and you remove it from the fruit or from the plant that you're getting it from, it becomes an enervating, isolated toxin. It's not food at that point because it's been removed from the whole. Taking something and removing it from what it belongs within is, it's assaulting that food, and it's not giving you the gift that it was meant to give you when it was in its whole intact state. So I don't know if this is answering your question, but it's um yeah, I'm a big fan of eating fruits in their whole state. I know some people juice, and that's fine too, because when you juice, you're still extracting many of the nutrients. The fiber goes away, but there is a good place for the fiber. It feeds the gut microbiome. It helps to establish the healthy microbes in our intestinal tract, and that's beneficial. But some people, they do better juicing because it helps with the faster, or easier, I should say, absorption of those nutrients. So again, this is where everybody's a little bit different in how they approach getting their nutrition in and where they're coming from. We both work with people on a individualized basis, but yeah, when you're getting everything, whether you juice it or you're getting it in its whole state, you're getting all of that nutrition all bundled up in one beautiful package, and it really is fueling the body and providing everything that we need.
Hmm. Indeed. Well, and I do want to insert a side note here when it comes to juicing, because that I'm big on that. I just
Mhm.
completed 120 days. I did
Wow.
93 days last year. And I want to say, because I get these questions all the time, but isn't juicing unnatural? And it's true. We wouldn't be walking around with a juicer in the forest, or and like you said, that Mother Nature put something that is perfect and whole and complete. So I agree with that. However, and there's two layers to this. Number one is that I utilize juicing, or solid food vacation. I really like that term, as a healing method, just like water fasting or any other herbs or anything else that we utilize for a particular purpose. So in terms, and this is my experience of doing water fasts and dry fasts, but again, depending on the individual, juice feasting, solid food vacation is one of the best and most effective ways to hydrate the colon and remove mucoid plaque, which is one of the number one causes of malabsorption. So you were talking about not absorbing nutrients. And after seeing so many eyes, just like with you, who is not malabsorbed to some degree, right?
Right.
And so to remove all that mucoid plaque, and this is my personal experience, nothing has cleaned my body to the degree as much as an extended solid food vacation. And that's just on a physical level. Like the other benefits and the spiritual and energetics that come with it are, I'll be talking more about these things in the group, but it's important for me to bring that in so people are not confused that what is Patty saying is true, that we do want to use the whole fruit. That's ideal. However, we use juicing as a method.
Mhm.
It's a means to an end, you can say. And the second layer to this is when, and this is where I'm at on my journey, is that life is not just the physical aspects. And like Patty even said a little bit ago, healing is not just a physical event. It's actually the body comes on board later on, once the mind is there, once the soul is very in a strong conviction about something. That I like to say that the body is like a puppy. It's going to follow. It's just
Yeah.
going to follow. And so at some point on this journey, at least for me, things shifted very radically, that now I don't really think in the terms of, well, am I getting the nutrients here and there? It's a personal preference that I prefer the liquids, the way I feel, the way it feels in my body, the way it sustains me. So that's where we evolve and change along the way in ways that we don't know and we can't predict. So it's not that one way is better than the other, is that there's a path to healing, and there are various tools on this path, like Patty and I are sharing, if it's the fruits and the herbs and the fasting and the solid food vacations, and then how to combine the art with the science to get to a place in which the body has the environment, the proper environment to actually heal and regenerate itself. just like Patty shared about that person with the cardiac issues. Well,
Mhm.
how do you explain that in 46 days, like the person didn't consume anything, right? On the
Right.
surface, it seems like he didn't consume any nutrients. So how is the body healing? If we need this and this and this and this and that to heal, is that really true? Well, probably not, because how do you explain people reversing diabetes, coming out of so many complicated cases from not doing anything? So,
Exactly.
right. So that's when we go into, and I would love for you to share, Patty, a little bit more about ATP and what really feeds the cells, what really feeds the body. And it's also why the fruits are so beneficial, because the ATP that we receive from it, or
Mhm.
the way the body converts it, is so readily available. So I
Yes.
would love to hear you breaking it down, and what really fuels the body, what gives the cells the energy to run and to also regenerate.
Right. Yeah. I mean, our cells, they need a molecule called ATP, like Noah mentioned, adenosine triphosphate. It is the energy currency of our cells. It's what allows our cells to do useful work, whether it's, contracting your muscles or pumping something across a membrane or helping to produce a protein enzyme to help you break down your food. That takes energy. And we produce ATP from nutrients that we get from our diet. But the best nutrients are these simple sugars. We can get it from fat, it kind of in order of how the body prefers to produce ATPs, first from the simple sugars, which include glucose and fructose for the most part, and then from the fats. And then, when we're in a state of starving, then we would get it from protein. Our body doesn't like to use protein to produce energy. It would rather use the amino acids to build things like antibodies or your hair or things that are more structural in nature. But the simple sugars, the glucose and the fructose, we get those from carbohydrate rich foods. So your grains, they're going to have a lot. But the best way to get the simple sugars is in fruit, because as I mentioned earlier, to break down glucose or fructose, either one, they both have the same molecular formula. It's just slightly different with respect to how the atoms are held together. But to break that molecule down, to break the chemical bonds, and to from that produce the ATP, you need minerals, you need vitamins, you need certain other cofactors that help the enzymes that work in that process produce the ATP. And so if you're getting nothing but the glucose or nothing but the fructose without those additional cofactors, it's like you're clogging up your engine and it won't work correctly. And that's what happens when we're getting sugar in an isolated form, like from soda or candy, high fructose corn syrup, or even from the grains, so like your flour products. They're a bunch of glucose. So when our body takes in bread, we break it down into individual glucose molecules, but you're getting a bunch of glucose again without those cofactors. And how do you know you have the cofactors, the vitamins, the minerals? That's what the color is of the fruit. The purples, the reds, those vibrant, beautiful, beautiful colors, they're telling you this is a nutrient dense food. And as humans, we have color vision to know when these fruits reach their peak ripeness. So, I've got some berries that I'm growing in my backyard. I've got various fruit trees. And I know when to pick them because they're reaching a certain color. And because I'm a human and I have color vision, that's when they're the sweetest. And that's when I know they're nourishing my body the best. So they're rich in the simple sugars. They have the vitamins, the minerals there to help me break it down. And that's the pure fuel that we are using to produce the ATP. Can we produce ATP from flour products? Yes. But if we don't have the vitamins and minerals, which, bread's not a mineral rich food for the most part, neither is candy or sugar or soda, you're going to be stripping those vitamins and minerals from other sources in your own body, and then you become depleted. So many people, like after they eat a sugar, like think of kids at Halloween, they eat all of that candy and then they're just like, they get a sugar high and then they they crash, right? That's because all of that sugar came into their system rapidly because it didn't have the fiber to slow the absorption. That's another beautiful thing about the fruit is that the soluble fiber slows the influx of the sugar. And even if you're juicing, you're going to get some of that fiber in the juice as well. So you don't completely extract all of the fiber when you're juicing. But you get a slower absorption, and it's a absorption of the simple sugars that your body can handle. And then as it's circulating in your blood, it's delivered to your cells along with the vitamins and minerals, and each and every single cell breaks it down into ATP and then uses it. Without those minerals there, we either strip them from other sources, and then that means those sources are going to be without a certain cofactor they might need. And overall, when you do this repetitively, it causes your body to wear down and you become deficient. So eating processed foods, eating foods that are basically not meant for humans, and I'm talking about, junk food, a lot of animal products, foods that have been adulterated by frying them or cooking them, and especially like frying them, and you create all of these weird agglomerated molecules that we can't even break down. It just gucks us up. It kind of backs us up. And as Noah said, many people are malabsorbed. A lot of that stuff doesn't even get absorbed into our blood. It gets stuck on our intestinal lining. And then, if you're lucky to absorb anything, you're going to take what you can get, but it's going to not be that vibrant energy. So for many people, that's where juicing is beautiful, because it's such a hydrating way to absorb nourishment, and it can remove the mucoid plaque. I've worked with many clients that have used juice fasting and juice feasting as their means to attain health.
Yeah, exactly. It's the different tools that we have in our toolbox, and also to understand, and when people say juicing is not natural, it's also the fact that most people, the shape of their colon and the shape of the entire body, but the shape of the GI tract, not just the colon, is so unnatural in this day and age that, in a sense, we now go to unnatural methods in order to reverse the madness. So that's
true.
That's another thing that I convey, that I share with people. It's like, have you seen your body on the inside? Is that natural? No. So yes, our ancestors didn't need to juice because they weren't that messed up, but that's how it started.
Right.
That's where the ill doing, I call it, began. The fall from grace. And so we're finding ourselves in this day and age needing to reverse some things in order to return back to the natural state, which is a state of supreme health and vitality and youthfulness.
Right.
That this body, and maybe you can share about this as well, Patty, that this body was actually designed to work for hundreds and even thousands of years when it's kept in the way it's meant to be kept.
Yes, I think, we've been sold a bill of lies about true human history and who we are as a species. And this is a field that I'm still learning quite a bit about. Who are we? What is this human experience? Where did we come from? Having a background in the natural sciences, but also the sciences that were taught to me by those who have an agenda, right? The people that I like to call them the powers that should not be, they don't want humanity to know just how powerful we are and what our true potential is. I think that we're in a day and time right now where many people are starting to become more aware of this. And I think it's frightening, the powers that should not be, which is why their systems of control are becoming a little bit more claustrophobic, and they're trying to exert more and take more of our freedoms away from us. So, it's one of those things, it's a beautiful thing, actually. And when you find this lifestyle living in alignment with nature, it opens up so many other doors. And you really begin to know what it means to be a spiritual human being on this planet. And it opens up your heart. You meet amazing people, like I met Noah, and I think we share the energy that kind of helps us, ascend to who we are. And yes, I think humans do live, I think 120 years is kind of the low end. I think we should be living much longer. I mean, they talk about this in many of the great works, like in the Bible, people living hundreds and hundreds of years. And there have been the rare humans even of late that have lived, I think Dr. Morse talks of a man that lived up to 200 and something years of age. I have to look that up again to remember. But I think that we have been lied to. They don't want us to know the power that we have, not only to heal, but also to kind of become enlightened. So there's a lot that I think we have the potential of becoming.
Wow, I so appreciate you bringing that up, Patty. I'm so big on that, and the power, right? That this is really a journey of empowerment. I mean, we can talk about all the technical details and break down ATP and the cells and the nourishment and the glucose and the fructose. Yes, and that's good for the mind to feel safe with this information. And underneath it all, like you just shared, Patty, it's a journey of empowerment that you know that the medicine is within you already to heal,
Yeah.
to regenerate, and that you don't need to go to the white coats or anybody else, not even me and Patty. It's like, for me, when I work with clients, I say also, I don't want you to come back to me. I'm not like the guy with the white coat that just wants you to come back. I don't. I really
Right.
don't. and I feel that you probably feel the same, that it's the joy of empowering people to become, or not even become, to realize that they are already whole and complete and everything is within them, and unlocking that, and then utilizing the things that we've been talking about, like the fruits and the fasting, the juicing, whatnot. This is just on a physical level, but just like you said, Patty, how much it opens one up to so many other things, so many other doors open up on a spiritual level.
Right.
And
That is true. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful freedom once you realize you don't need, I mean, first of all, you realize that the fear they're trying to sell you is something you're immune to. You're immune to fear because they can't scare you with whatever thing they want to cause the lockdown of the world with. That these things that, they're trying to make you feel fearful enough to inject something poisonous into your body to not get, they know that if they can trick you into believing that lie, they've got you under their thumb. But once you realize, okay, if anything enters me that's going to wreak havoc, is because my terrain was not at a level of health. And that's all I need to fix. I need to fix my biological terrain. I need to fix that internal essence that is going to help me to create a healthy environment where, microbes aren't going to want to wreak havoc within my body. And I'm in control of that. I don't catch that from people I walk by, not if I'm healthy. I can walk into a room of people sneezing and coughing and throwing up all around me and not feel a thing from that. I mean, it's even been proven in many scientific studies that that's not, I mean, the germ theory is a false theory, and people should not allow it to create fear in their minds, in their beautiful mental realm. Because what we went through just recently, it was a mind virus. It wasn't a real virus. It was a mind virus, and it was fear. And that's what they did. They needed to control humanity because we're right at that precipice of just breaking free through, these control systems. So I think I might have gone off on a tangent, and I apologize.
no, don't apologize. This is right up my alley as well. And it's all perfect. It's whatever comes through is meant to come through. I trust that wholeheartedly. And as you said that also, Patty, it's true that when your immune system is functioning, then you can be in a room filled with whatever and be okay. And also, when just to explain to people, when if you do get something, right, and you get the symptoms, as we know, like cold and flu-like symptoms, sneezing, coughing, sore throats, that it's the body's way of removing toxicity out, that any type of disease, from a cold to cancer, is basically nothing more than the body pushing out garbage, or at least attempting. And this is how we started also, with the elimination, right? That is the number one key to, or one of the number one keys to true healing, is actually opening up the elimination channels.
Correct. That is perfect. Yeah. And that's what I think a true healer is, somebody that supports what your body is already trying to do. In allopathic medicine, allo means opposite. They try to go in the opposite direction. So if you're coughing, they're going to stop the cough. They're going to give you something to stop the cough. And that doesn't heal you. That pushes that irritation deeper into your body. And then it manifests into something even more chronic, more severe down the road. I mean, I saw this growing up in my own childhood. I remember when I was 10, I had pneumonia. And I was on a bunch of pharmaceuticals. I remember missing an entire summer. I was sick for 3 months with severe pneumonia. And then, I think it was a year after that, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism at the age of 11. And I wholeheartedly believe that there is a connection between that. Something between those pharmaceutical medications that I was on for 3 months led to my thyroid gland, or what I think to be maybe my pituitary gland, not working correctly, because the pituitary controls the thyroid. And I see in my iris, when I do an iris analysis of my own eyes, I can see these things. But, in my honest opinion, having gone through medical school and having seen it, having been in that system, I think a lot of our diseases that we have in today's world comes from that system. If we weren't injected right out of our mother's womb and, assaulted with all of these chemicals and then put on formula and other chemicals that we get just growing up. I mean, being a child is so tough these days, much tougher than it was when I was a baby. I mean, kids by the time they're 6 or 7 have been receiving so many injections. I'm not going to say the word so that we can keep this video clean, but they're just assaulted with all of this toxicity in the name of this system called allopathic medicine that is causing sickness. It's suppressing the human experience. So to come back to what is this system that's trying to control us all, the powers that should not be, well, one of their biggest tools is allopathic medicine and big pharma, because they're just trying to suppress and attack and create the illness, and I've talked to a lot of people in the medical system, a lot of medical doctors, and they think that many chronic diseases are coming from what we're doing to our children at youth. And then they develop who knows what from that. It's really sad. It's sad that they're getting away with it again, just with this most recent thing that they're pushing.
Yes, yeah. It's unpleasant to watch, and at the same time, at least my approach, Patty, is that I see the divinity behind it all, because for whatever reason that it's happening, that for some people it's the catalyst. Like, they are now finding me, or finding this group, or finding this information because of that. So it's playing its purpose, for whatever reason the humanity is choosing to learn in that way. And it actually inspires me more, and you probably can relate to that. It inspires me more to continue my own journey, for sure, and then sharing this information, because we know that whoever they are, there's nothing outside of ourselves. It's the power is with the people. And
Mhm.
when the people start demanding different things and start changing their priorities, when people start going to the white coats, and instead of
Mhm.
the white coats, they're actually going to go to the juice bar, then we're going to see radical shifts happening on a larger scale.
That is so true. Yes. And I think they're afraid of that and they see
Yeah.
it happening. And I think that we just have to expect, as enlightenment increases, so does, they're trying to control us. That will increase alongside of it. But we just stay strong. And I think once you have gotten onto this path, you find a certain conviction to know that you're walking in truth. And there's nothing, that can deter you from that. Once that you found something special.
Yeah, and you feel it. You feel it in
Mhm.
yourself, and no matter how much opposition you might receive from your family, from uh, people around you, and the power of the numbers, right? Of being together. When you said to stay
Mhm.
strong, to walk in truth, is to also finding and attracting. Really, it just comes into your life people that are on the same path, and the numbers are growing. Because I've been on this path for so long, and it can be very lonely and very alone. And I
Mhm.
feel that now there's so much more available in terms of connections and communities, and the fact that we have online platforms like this where we can, it's so much more available
Right.
that it can be easier for people, especially when you just find out. Like Dr. Moore shares that when he started all of this, he was alone in his van in the woods reading a book. He didn't have
Yeah.
Facebook.
Right. Yeah. It was a different world back then.
Yeah, so much gratitude for all these pioneers that
Yeah.
paved the path, paved the way.
That is so true. And you're right about people becoming more aware because of all of this. So that's a more positive way of looking at it. Because I can tell you, my parents used to think I was crazy for this lifestyle, but now they've come around, right? And they aren't trusting or as of trusting of the white coats as they used to be. And in fact, my dad, he told me, he's like, I consider you my doctor now. I'm not going to the white coats anymore. So when I'm not feeling good, what herb do I take? What should I be eating? So, they've definitely did a 180.
Amazing. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you actually if you did receive opposition when you just started. And so you answered my question.
Mhm.
And yes, I resonate with that wholeheartedly. Again, and this is what I share with people, and the importance of being true to yourself and stay with that strong conviction no matter what, and to not bend over because of other people projections and beliefs and fears. But
Right.
as you stay rooted in that light, then people see you. Even if they don't see you initially, they see you. You just keep shining, and they see you, and they see you, and whenever they're ready, they'll pop, they'll come to you, like Patty is saying, and like, what herb do I take, what fruits is better to
Yes,
eat.
exactly.
They turn around. And I experienced the same thing with my family, for sure. Like, my mom is now into juicing, and it's like,
Nice.
and she was very opposing and projecting a lot of fear, but I stayed in love with her. Also, is to remember to stay in love with other people, and to know that from their point of view, they're coming from what they believe to be love. They care about you, they want you to be healthy. And also, as we know, in the process of detoxification, it's not always pretty.
Right.
You might get very skinny, your skin might break out, your hair might not look good, you might have a lot of healing crises. And I feel that that's a very important piece to convey, that people don't expect it to just be a journey of rainbows and butterflies all the time. That's just now how it is.
No, yeah, and it's not even just the physical healing crisis. You're going to go through some deep spiritual and emotional healing as well. I mean, it's shadow work. This is what I call it to my clients. This is shadow work. I recommend keeping a journal, look at your emotions and just be grateful for everything that's coming to the surface. those memories you had as a child, whatever it was. Just be grateful for it all coming out, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to unfold and to
Mm-hmm.
release.
Mm-hmm. That's why I use the term cellular regeneration, because I've seen it time and time again with myself and with people, how when people even talk about trauma or deep emotional stuff that they've been carrying for years, like the depth and the how profound this journey is, that it's not just, oh, you're cleansing your body so your lymph can move better and your blood is cleaner,
Mhm.
but you get to the cellular memory, that whatever is stored there emotionally, energetically, and trauma gets locked in the body on a cellular level. So you can go to all the therapy you want. And until you get to those crevices, to that cellular memory,
Yeah.
it's just, I feel like people kind of go in circles for many years.
They do, yeah. And the ego is really good at hiding things.
Yes.
Like if you've taken in a lot of toxicity, especially if your channels of elimination have been weak, your body's going to tuck it away somewhere until it can deal with it later. And we do the same thing with emotions. We tuck it away. It gets stored with the chemicals. And then when we detoxify and it all comes out and now it's circulating and it's heading towards the kidneys to be eliminated out through the body or whatever path it's using, you're going to feel that going through you. And it's tough. I mean, it really is. It's probably the part of this journey that, with anything that's worthwhile, it's part of the journey that you have to experience. But when you get to the other side, you will feel absolutely amazing and you will feel lighter. And that's the energy that you will have to express, and you express it in your own unique way, whether you exercise or you get into a new practice, or you want to become a healer yourself. It's a beautiful unfolding.
Yeah. I just, thank you for saying that, because that's what I share as well. I say it's the greatest gift you can give yourself, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's the greatest gift of love you can give yourself and others. That's the thing, because there's no such thing as just self. We know that we're all connected. So as I heal and regenerate my body, it's a gift to other people as well, which manifests in many different ways,
Right.
because we are all connected.
That is true.
So I really love that you said that right there, like the what's on the other side. It's absolutely the greatest gift, the
Mm-hmm.
greatest gift to oneself, the greatest gift to humanity. And the more of us come together and do it, the more of that ascension and elevation of consciousness that is going to occur on a planetary level, which will bring about some magnificent shifts and changes.
Yes. I'm looking forward. I can't wait for the day where we see the numbers and we see the shift in humanity.
Yeah, somebody like Dr. Morris to be the president. Just imagine that.
Wow. We would have fruit trees on every corner.
Exactly. Somebody like you is the prime minister. It's like, yes.
Yeah, I think if I were in a position of government, I would just tear it all down and say, okay,
Yeah,
everybody's free. We're all sovereign beings, use
that
your wisdom and your love to create goodness
that
in this world.
that's true. And I agree. I agree with that 100%, that in a high level of awareness, as the divine humans that we don't need any of those structures. There's
Right.
just a built-in integrity and respect and love and honor. And we don't need anybody to put a set of rules, because people will behave, in a
Yeah.
respectful, loving, kind manner. Like it will just be a built-in thing. It is,
Hmm.
right? So coming back to our natural state of that,
Right.
human expression. Well, fantastic, Patty. I'm going to see if I've got a few people here in the room. So if you have any questions, um, I can see it in the comments. So if you are here, if you don't have any questions, just say, just give me a heart or a smiley face, and or anything you'd like to share with Patty. It doesn't have to be a question, but if you do have a question, then just type it in the comments and we will answer those questions before wrapping things up. So I'll give it a few, because sometimes there's a delay, Patty, between when I
Yeah.
speak and they actually receive it on the Facebook. And I believe I can see the comments. Let me double check here. Okay, not seeing any comments coming in, at least for now. So, Patty, to wrap things up, wait, oh, okay. Sorry, let me just pause this here. Melissa is saying, thank you for the information.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Can you hear that? Okay, 1 second. Okay, great. Yes, Melissa is saying thank you for the information. Great, Melissa. I'm really happy that you've joined us. Melissa is actually about to embark on her own beautiful healing journey, and
Wow.
divine intervention brought us together. So I'm really happy about that. Yeah. So Patty, as more comments coming in, what would you leave people with on this journey? Let's just say for someone like Melissa or others that are tuning in or will be tuning in later that are just entering this world.
I think that, when you're entering the world of just healing and being a self-healer and wanting to reverse something maybe you were diagnosed with, or symptoms that you want to be no longer attached to, or even medication that you're taking, you just want to be done with it. And you decide that you're going to be in charge of your health. This is the most, you're going to get the biggest payoff from this journey compared to anything else you might ever go into. I mean, yes, you can study to become an artist or a dancer, but to heal yourself, it's the soul's work. It's the great work that you are meant to do, because you come not only to heal your body, but you find out who you are as a person, and you will find the deepest, innermost parts of you, newfound passions that you didn't even know you were attracted to. You might find that you want to do something totally new with your life. I know my life completely changed when I decided to go into the fruits and to go into natural hygiene. I mean, relationships unfortunately ended, but new relationships were made, right? So you find your people, you find your path, and you can really be in touch. I think the cleaner your body is, the closer you are to spirit. So it's an exciting journey. It's tough. It's not easy. Unless you've been fortunate to live off of fruit since birth, it's going to be a tough journey for many of us, but it's so worth it. And I encourage each and every one of you listening to this message to embrace it with excitement and with love.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Patty. And Melissa is saying also, I'm already underweight, so appreciate that you individualize for people so mindfully. Yeah, for sure. It's that's the interesting when I say that this is an art, combining the art and the science, because everything Patty and I shared, that's, you can say truth, whatever you want to call it. It's like we are a human species. Our body was designed in a certain way, just like cows were designed in a certain way and horses are designed in a certain way. None of the animals are walking around confused about what to eat. So we are no different. The only difference that we actually have higher consciousness. So we can live even without food, or like do things that maybe a cow is not equipped to do. But when it comes to the physical body, what has been shared here today, that's, you can you can see that as the baseline. There's a certain particular fuel that was designed for the human body. Veering away from it is going to cause issues. So to come back to non-issues is going back to what actually caused the issues in the first place. Let's remove that and come back to the original divine design. Right? So that's very simple. That's the baseline, and that is applied to every single person. It's not like fruits are okay for Patty and for me, but they're not okay for Melissa and Jody. No, our GI tract are exactly the same. Then the individual cases is come in and how to go about it. That's the difference. And Melissa, you and I will also talk more about the underweight and how to go about it, and removing the fear as well, because that's another thing that we've been conditioned with. And Patty, maybe you can just, before we close, if you could add a little bit about that, and if you had that experience, because you are lightweight as well, just like myself. And yes, I got to very, very lightweight fasting and doing the juicing for very long. But when the body actually returns back to its natural state and in a state of vitality after it's been regenerated, the weight actually stabilizes on very little food, or even just on juices. And that's something I experienced, the fluctuations in which I had periods of weeks, not changing anything with my juice consumption, and my weight just stabilized.
Yeah, I think that does happen. I think when it comes to the fear, you're probably going to get the most fear from the people in your world compared to what you're experiencing. So try to, again, center yourself, because you will feel a certain way, and you have to have trust in that feeling, and trust that you're putting the optimal food in your body. And it's true, sometimes very thin people become a little bit even more thin during this process, but you reach a point where the body becomes so clean, and it's like, okay, now that we've gotten all of this junk out of here, let's start rebuilding again. And then you start to find that weight where you're meant to settle at. You will get there. Just try not to let the fear of others interfere you. I know with me that happened, because I remember losing quite a bit of weight just doing the fruits. And, people that I worked with, they were concerned about me, and I'm like, I'm okay. I'm jogging every day. I feel amazing. I haven't had this much energy in a long time. And it was, upsetting that they were trying to throw so much fear my way, but, you get through it, and then, you're healthy. So that's good.
Yeah, it's just the example that Dr. Morris gives, which is so simple and applicable and
Mhm.
true. It's like when you take your car to be worked on, it's not going to look good for a little while. So if you come in halfway and the mechanic or the person hasn't finished working on it, and you start complaining, well, my car looks like crap. Like, I'm not done. And I give the example of remodeling a house.
Mhm.
In the process, it's going to be messy and dusty, and it might not look good, but we are remodeling, and it's going to be so beautiful and even better functioning after we're done with the remodeling.
That is true.
Yeah, great. Patty, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love the way you share this information, and just your gentleness and your kindness, and the fact that you have so much experience under your belt from various worlds. So I appreciate the richness that you bring to the table and everything that you shared here today.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate the connection. It's so much brings out, my passion when I get to connect with people like yourself, especially since I'm back to teaching 40 hours a week at a college, and it's a total different mindset there. It's nice to connect and to know that there are others on this path with me. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great reminder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are so not alone. Great. Okay, Patty. So send me an email with just what kind of information you'd like me to include, because this is going to
Sure.
be on YouTube. So, I'll put it in the description, your
Okay.
website or any other channels that you would like to be contacted through. And
Yeah, of course.
yes, and those of you that are watching later in this group, or if you're coming through YouTube, then leave your comment uh, below the video or in the comment section. And if you have any questions, then please do so as well. And I'll come back and review those questions. So thank you for those that join us live. Thank you for those that are watching this later. And Patty, thank you again so much.
Thank you. I hope you have a beautiful day.
Thank you. Have a beautiful night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.